Apple just quietly raised the price of its best-selling MacBook, not because the company suddenly felt like it, but because there's a memory shortage nobody was expecting. And here's the kicker, Apple's executives are already hinting this is just the beginning, with more price hikes potentially coming. This story reveals something that rarely makes headlines: the invisible supply chains that control what you pay for technology. When a single component runs short, in this case, RAM memory chips for laptops and tablets, it doesn't just affect one company, it sends ripple effects through the entire tech industry. Apple's move tells us that memory costs are spiking so hard right now that even a company with Apple's buying power has to pass that cost straight to customers. Most people assume that when you buy a new MacBook, you're paying for the design or the brand. But the reality is far more complex. Component shortages and manufacturing bottlenecks create invisible pressure on companies to raise prices or risk profit margins collapsing. The memory crunch isn't just about raw material costs, it's about scarcity. When supply can't meet demand, prices climb. And when a company like Apple decides that raising prices is necessary, you know the market situation is serious. This raises a bigger question. If Apple is hiking prices now, how long before we see the same move from Microsoft, Dell, and every other laptop maker? And that's exactly what we are going to explore next. To understand why Apple suddenly needs to raise prices, we need to go back about 3 years. The chip industry faced a historic shortage that started around 2022 and 2023, when the world realized it had built its entire technological infrastructure on a single supply chain that couldn't handle disruption. Factories in Taiwan and South Korea manufacture nearly all the world's advanced memory chips. When COVID hit, factories slowed down. When demand exploded with remote work and gaming, production couldn't keep pace. That created a shortage that lasted years. Now, in 2026, we are seeing a different problem emerging. Memory chip manufacturers are finally ramping up production, but demand has exploded even faster. Artificial intelligence has become the new mega-consumer of memory chips. Every AI server, every advanced GPU, every machine learning system needs enormous amounts of RAM. Data centers are building out at unprecedented scale to handle AI workloads. And here's the thing, AI servers are hungry. They burn through memory chips faster than consumer products ever did. A single AI server rack can contain the same amount of memory as 1,000 laptops. So what's happening is that memory chip supply is getting reallocated. The high-margin AI market is pulling memory away from consumer products like MacBooks and iPads. Apple doesn't want to lose market share, but it also doesn't want to sacrifice margins. So the solution, from Apple's perspective, is simple: raise prices. Let's get specific about what's actually happening with memory chips. RAM, that's random access memory, is the fast-working memory that your computer uses when it's running programs. It's different from storage. Storage is like a filing cabinet where you keep documents long-term. RAM is like your desk. It's where you're actively working on things right now. RAM has gotten exponentially more important because software has become way more memory hungry. A decade ago, 8 gigabytes of RAM was considered plenty for a powerful laptop. Today, professional users and AI applications demand 32, 64, or even 128 gigabytes of RAM. And here's the kicker: making RAM is incredibly expensive and requires state-of-the-art factories. Only a handful of companies in the world make memory chips at scale. SK Hynix, Samsung, and Micron are the 3 giants. They've all been warning investors that memory prices are climbing because demand is outpacing supply. When you're a company like Apple buying memory chips in bulk, you're locked into supply contracts. If the price of those chips goes up, your cost of goods sold goes up directly. Apple can't absorb that hit without either cutting into profit margins or raising prices. Given Apple's commitment to shareholder returns, the company chose to raise prices. MacBook Pro models saw increases, iPad models got more expensive, and Apple made it clear in their earnings that this trend isn't ending soon. So which Apple products are getting hit with price increases? The biggest impact is on MacBook Pro models, the high-end laptop that professionals and creatives rely on. If you wanted a MacBook Pro with 16 gigabytes of RAM, Apple just bumped the starting price up meaningfully. The same goes for MacBook Air, the more affordable option. iPad Pro, Apple's premium tablet, also saw price increases, particularly the models with 12 gigabytes of RAM or higher. These aren't small tweaks either. We're talking increases that matter when you're buying technology that costs over $1,000 already. A price bump of $100 to $200 on a $2,000 laptop is meaningful to consumers. What makes this particularly interesting is that Apple didn't increase the base configuration RAM amounts. They kept the same 8 gigabyte starting points for most models, but they increased the price to add more RAM. It's a strategic move. They are saying the entry price stays the same, but if you want meaningful memory for real work, that's going to cost more. This is classic Apple playbook. Maintain the appearance of competitive starting prices while making the professional-grade configs more expensive. Consumers who need serious computing power have to pay a premium. This is where it gets interesting, because this pricing change reveals what Apple thinks about memory scarcity going forward. So is Apple the only company doing this? Not even close. Dell, Lenovo, HP, and Asus, basically every major laptop maker, are watching the same memory supply situation. Some have already raised prices quietly. Others are waiting to see if Apple's move normalizes the trend before they follow suit. This is how the tech industry works. When Apple moves first on pricing, competitors watch the customer reaction. If people complain but keep buying, others join in. If there's major backlash, competitors might hold their prices steady and use that as a marketing advantage. History suggests Apple usually wins that gamble. Even with price increases, people still want MacBooks because of the ecosystem, the build quality, and the operating system. But here's what's different this time. We're not talking about Apple adding features and charging more. We're not talking about a new generation with better specs. We are talking about the same product with the same specs costing more because inputs got expensive. That's a pure cost-push scenario. And when that happens across an entire industry, it signals that the problem isn't temporary or local. It's systemic. Memory prices are climbing because the world fundamentally doesn't have enough memory chip manufacturing capacity for the AI boom. We are building data centers faster than we can build chip fabs. That's a real constraint. And it's not going away fast. So what does this mean for you as a consumer? If you were thinking about buying a new laptop or tablet in the second half of 2026, prices just got steeper. Apple's move signals that memory costs aren't coming down anytime soon. The companies with the most buying power, Apple, Microsoft, Google, can negotiate better prices, but they're all seeing costs rise. For smaller tech companies, the hit is even harder. Smaller laptop makers don't have Apple's negotiating clout, so they feel memory shortages earlier and more severely. For the broader tech industry, this is a wake-up call. The AI boom is consuming resources at a pace that nobody predicted. We thought memory chip capacity would be enough. Turns out it's not, and that has cascading effects. If memory prices stay elevated, it raises the cost of building AI systems. That could slow down AI development or push costs onto users through higher API pricing. If you're using an AI service and it suddenly costs more, there's your reason. But here's a silver lining. This scarcity will drive investment. Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron are all racing to expand memory production. New memory chip fabs are being built right now. In 3 to 5 years, supply will probably catch up to demand, and prices will stabilize. But in the meantime, we are in a squeeze. If you're in the market for a new laptop or tablet right now, here's what you should actually consider. First, think about whether you really need that upgrade. If your current machine is doing the job, holding off 6 to 12 months might save you money as prices settle. Second, if you do buy now, figure out what RAM you actually need. Don't let Apple upsell you on overkill specs just because the price bump exists. If you're browsing and typing, 8 gigabytes is still fine. If you're doing photo editing, video work, or running virtual machines, 16 or 32 gigabytes makes sense. Third, explore alternatives. Windows laptops from Dell, Lenovo, or HP might offer better value right now if they haven't raised prices as aggressively as Apple. iPad alternatives like Samsung Galaxy Tab with Android might also be worth considering. Fourth, check the return policy. If you buy and then regret the price you paid, you want a way out. Fifth, look at certified refurbished models. Used MacBooks from the last generation are way cheaper and perform almost identically for most tasks. Refurbished units come with warranties, so you're not taking huge risk. Finally, Consider whether you need maximum performance or just something that works. Sometimes the best financial move is to buy last year's model at a discount instead of chasing the latest specs. So here's what this story really comes down to. Apple's price hike on MacBooks and iPads isn't just about Apple being greedy or opportunistic. It's a signal that the global supply chain for memory chips is under real stress from the AI boom. Data centers are building out faster than chip manufacturers can keep pace. That reality is cascading into higher costs for consumers buying consumer electronics. The story from Apple's earnings was that this is not temporary. The company's leadership made it clear they expect memory prices to stay elevated. That means more price hikes are probably coming, not just for Apple, but across the entire laptop and tablet industry. But here's what you should take away. This is a moment where you have agency. You can choose to wait, explore other brands, buy refurbished, or negotiate. You're not locked in. Every consumer choice matters, especially when companies are testing how much price increase the market will accept. If people push back and buy alternatives, companies will think twice before hiking prices. If everyone just accepts it, then higher prices become the new normal. So the real power in this story isn't with Apple, it's with you. What you buy next shapes what companies do next. Follow this channel for daily breakdowns of tech news that actually matter. There's always something fascinating happening in the world of tech.